Review. Okay. Right, so we'll get started. Let me see. Oh yeah, recording is done. Let's move this here. Okay. So we'll begin with Sri Guru Pranam Mantrachan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Jayatam Shurato Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvasva Parambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranyo Kalpa Drumadaha Srimad Ratnagado Simhasanasto Sriman Radha Sri Ragovinda Devo Prashtalibihi Sevyamano Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambhi Vamsivatastatastitah Karshan Venur Swanergopir Gopinata Shriyastunah Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरये अधर्मप्रोजितकैतवो अत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणं सतं वेद्यमष्टमत्रमष्टशिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्. This Bhagavata Purana is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. For the welfare of all such, truth uproots the threefold miseries. श्रीमद्भागवते महामुने कृते किं वा परे ईश्वरः साध्यो हृदि अवरुध्यते अत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्ताक्षरात्. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. निगमकल्पतरुर्गलितं फलं सुखं पिबतपात्रं रसमालयं मुहुरपुरसिका भूरिभावकः नास्तप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भागवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. इदं भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्मसंहितं उत्तमश्लोकचरितं चकार भगवान् ऋषिः निःश्रेयसाय लोकस्य धन्यं स्वस्ति अयनं महत्. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. त्वयि मे आनंद विषय मतिर्मधुपति आसकृत रतिम उद्वहत अदा गंगे वौगम उदन्वति. O Lord of sweetness, Madhupati, as the Ganga forever flows to the sea without any hindrance, let my attraction or ratim be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vignamina Shanarsimhaiti Namini Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayitim Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram Om Tat Sat. So Hare Krishna everybody. So welcome back again to the Srimad Bhagavatam session. Right. So we have completed Canto 1. Right. So just a bit of recap on looking at all the topics that we have covered in Canto 1 very quickly. So it's a bird's eye view. So we started with chapter 1 about 3 years ago. So that was questions by the sages. So the questions by the sages, they asked 6 questions. These are the sages of Naimisharanya forest who have all gathered from all corners of the world in order to perform a sacrifice, in order to halt the progress of Kali Yuga. Because Kali Yuga is, Lord Krishna has already left the world. So they were, didn't know what to do. So they started to perform fire sacrifices. They gathered by the thousands, and it went on for more than 1,000 years, apparently. So, right. So then at that time, even though they were doing the fire sacrifices, they felt that they were not making much impact in the marching of Kali, and they were rather frustrated with what they were doing. So at that time, walked in Suta Goswami. So Suta Goswami is the son of Romaharshana Suta. So he's one of the great sages. So Suta Goswami, he came, and immediately all the assembled sages, they appointed Suta Goswami. Actually, initially it was Romaharshana, and then Romaharshana died, and then his son Suta Goswami was put to lead, and then they asked questions upon him. So these are the 6 questions they asked. What is the absolute ultimate good for everyone? So they wanted to establish clearly, they wanted a clear direction, because they've been doing the fire sacrifices and they were not successful. So now they're asking, what is the absolute ultimate good for everyone? Then they asked, what is the essence of all Vedic literatures? So basically, all the scriptures is pointing towards what? What is their purpose? What is it they are wanting us to do? The essence of all Vedic literatures. Then they asked, why did Lord Krishna appear himself? So his incarnation and his direct appearance, his leelas. So the Lord appeared in the Dwapara Yuga, and towards the end of the Dwapara Yuga, and then we know how the Mahabharata war took place, and then after that the disappearance of Lord Krishna. And so basically these sages, they wanted to know, why did Lord Krishna appear himself within this age? And then they wanted to know, please tell us the purpose of the 10 incarnations of Godhead. So basically they wanted to hear more about Krishna, so why he came in his original form, and they also wanted to know about his incarnations and their purposes. And so these are 4 questions. The 5th question, please describe the pastimes of Lord Krishna. So first is why Lord Krishna appeared. Now then they asked about his previous incarnations. Now they want to hear more about his leelas. And the final question is, now that the Lord has left the world, he has wrapped up his Leela, where will religion take shelter? Where will Dharma and all sadhus take shelter now that Krishna has left the world? So these were the 6 questions posed upon Suta Goswami. They posed this question to him because they knew that Suta Goswami had heard the Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Sukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. He was in that assembly. So he had heard this, and then he was coming, and then they wanted to posed the 6 questions so that they were hoping to get answers for that. So that's the first chapter, right? Then we heard the second chapter, divinity and divine service. So Sutta Goswami begins to answer one by one uh, all the various questions. So in the divinity and divine service, he talks about what is the ultimate good for everyone. So he establishes that very clearly, right? So the ultimate good for everyone is to chant the holy names of the Lord and to take shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam and to always remember the Lord. So like this, see, we established that very nicely. Then how he established Krishna as the source of incarnations. Although there are many, many incarnations, like Rama, like Narasingha, like Matsya, like Kurma. And there are different categories of incarnations. In fact, the incarnations are described to be so numerous that they are like the waves of the ocean, continuously coming, continuously coming. We cannot keep track of all the incarnations in the universe. But on earth, so these are some of the incarnations which are mentioned in scripture. So I think about 13 or 15 of them were discussed in this chapter. And again, as I said, there are different categories. Incarnation is one thing, but category of incarnation is also there. So there are some which are, guna avatar, like the mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance. Then there is the Purusha avatar, like Garbhodakashai Vishnu, Karunodakashai Vishnu, Shirodakashai Vishnu, right? Then there is the Leela avatar, like Lord Ram, right? Then there is the what do you call the Sakyavesh avatar, which is the empowered incarnations. That means the Lord empowers a jiva with the potency of himself to perform a certain act, and they are accepted as incarnations. Sakya Avesh. So that means the Sakti is embodied into that person. So like that, there are different types of incarnations, and then there's Yuga Avatar, the different incarnations for the different ages. So all this was discussed in chapter 3. So that was basically answering the question on the incarnation, right? Tell us the purpose of the 10 incarnations. So he described them and he also told the purpose of those incarnations. And then chapter 4, the appearance of Sri Narada. So now he is beginning to prepare to answer the rest of the questions. So the essence of the Vedic literature and the absolute ultimate good for everyone. These two questions were answered in chapter 2, sorry, right? And then the incarnations were answered in chapter 3. So the topic title was Krishna is the source of all incarnations. So we have that the verse, right? Uh, um, Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indriya Vyakulam Lokam Hridayante Yuge Yuge. So the Lord appears in every yuga after yuga, with different numerous incarnations. Ete chamsa kala pumsa. So many different incarnations. But they all come from Krishna. Krishnastu Swayam Bhagavan. Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. So that is very clearly established in this Bhagavatam. So, after answering about that, he's now preparing to talk about the last question. And also, because he hasn't described the pastimes of Krishna, right? And he didn't say why Krishna appeared himself. He did mention that in chapter 2, but he want to speak more about that. So, which scripture speaks most about Krishna? Krishna and his pastimes. So that scripture is Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is the answer for question number 6. So in order to establish Srimad Bhagavatam, he first talks about appearance of Sri Narada Muni. So how Narada Muni, so the author of all scriptural, the compiler of all scriptures is Sri Vyasadev, right? Dvaipayana Vyasa. So Vyasadev is a Sakyavesh incarnation of the Lord, and he compiled all the scriptures. After compiling all the scriptures, he was not very happy and he was unsatisfied. And at that time, Sri Narada Muni came. So Narada Muni came and explained to him why he was unhappy, even though he has compiled so many scriptures. So Narada gives instructions about Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasadeva. He says, you have written so many things, but predominantly you have talked about Karma Kanda. you have talked about materialistic goals. You have encouraged people in the name of religion to take up material activities. Of course, you were thinking of doing good for them because most of the souls have come here because they wanted to enjoy the material world. So Vyasadeva created a manual for them to refer to so that they can satisfy their desires. But while doing this, at the same time, they will gradually make advancement in spirituality. But that will take a very long time. So Narada Muni was saying, you are feeling unsatisfied because you did not really present the essence of the teachings of the scriptures. And that will be Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is glorified as the essence of all Vedic scriptures. And this is question number 2. What is the essence of all Vedic literatures? Srimad Bhagavatam is that essence. So then conversation between Narada and Vyasadeva, we heard about the pastimes of Narada Muni, how he took advantage of devotees and in this way he became a devotee. And then he enthused Vyasadeva to start writing the Srimad Bhagavatam. So then the son of Drona punished. So these few parts, the first 6 chapters were basically establishing the questions and establishing some of the answers, and these answers will be expanded further in the rest of the chapters. So, but Sutta Goswami did not really describe Krishna's pastimes yet. So now he begins to describe some of Krishna's pastimes in relation with these other questions. So he talks about, he begins, Krishna is introduced first of all in Srimad Bhagavatam as Arjuna's friend, and how Arjuna and Krishna were together going to catch Dronacharya's son, Ashwatthama. Because Ashwatthama has, after the Mahabharata war has finished, Ashwatthama was very unhappy because his father was killed and he wanted to take revenge. So, and he did many things, but still he wasn't satisfied. So then he wanted to kill the last dynasty, that he wanted to end the dynasty of the Pandavas. So he killed the 5 sons of the Pandavas from Draupadi, and mistakenly, because he thought they were the Pandavas, but then they died. So after that, he got the idea, let me kill the entire dynasty off. So he knew there was one child which was still growing in the womb of Uttara. Uttara is the Uttara is the daughter-in-law of Arjuna. Uttara's husband was Abhimanyu. So Uttara was pregnant. Abhimanyu was killed, of course. Uttara was pregnant, and the child was growing in the womb. So Drona's son Ashwatthama wanted to kill the child, and to kill the child, he sent the most powerful weapon in the universe, the Brahmastra. So he sent the Brahmastra, and in this way we heard about what happened, how Ashwatthama was captured, and we heard about what Krishna wanted. So it was very nice. Then we heard after that, after the chastisement of Ashwatthama, then we heard how Queen Kunti was extremely grateful for all that Krishna had done. And after saving Uttara's son, Krishna, after staying some time with them, he was about to leave. So Queen Kunti, when she was about to leave, immediately came and prayed to the Lord. Indirectly, she wanted him to stay, but she was saying, she was giving her prayers, her famous prayers, where she was glorifying the Lord in different ways. She established the Lord as the Lord of the entire universe, and she talked about the Lord's pastimes, what is his mission, his purpose, why he comes, why he incarnates, and all basically answering some of these questions posed by the sages. It was all captured in the prayers of Queen Kunti, right? So very beautiful set of prayers there we heard. And after that, Lord Krishna, before he left, he was telling Yudhishthira Maharaj to go and visit Bhishma Dev and to hear from him, because Bhishma Dev was lying in the bed of arrows. So we witnessed the passing of Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev gave his lecture. He gave his talk. He welcomed the. We heard how he welcomed the Pandavas, and after that, how he was glorifying the Pandavas. That the Pandavas were so dear to the Lord that everything that happened to the Pandavas was not karma, was simply due to the Lord's leelas. and they were all participating in the Lord's Leelas. And after that, Bhishma was about to leave the body, and we heard about Bhishma Dev's meditation on the Lord. So again, we heard about the Lord's different pastimes and purposes, very beautifully captured by the meditation of Bhishma Dev towards the end of his life. And finally, Lord Krishna was departing Hastinapur to Dwaraka. So we heard more about that, the glorification of Lord Krishna, how he left Hastinapur on his way out of Hastinapur, how the Pandavas came, how the ladies of the palace, they were all glorifying him. So we heard many of those glories. It was very beautiful prayer. More description about Krishna's glories in that way. And then we heard about how Lord Krishna entered into Dwaraka. We heard about his travel from Hastinapur to Dwaraka. And then from Dwaraka, he blew his conch, and how everybody assembled and came to see him, from the kings and the great personalities to the even the prostitutes within Dwaraka. They all came to see, and how the entire city was beautifully decorated, and in ready for festival of receiving Krishna. So and we heard how Krishna was relating with everybody. So previously we heard the glories of Krishna, but in this chapter we heard how Krishna related with each and every one of them, the mothers and the wives, how he even the simple people of Dwaraka, each one of them he related with them personally. So that was Lord Krishna's, more of Lord Krishna and his pastimes, establishing the Lord as the Supreme Lord, right? Then Sutta Goswami moves on to answer the rest of the questions. So, in order to speak about Bhagavatam, he wants, because the sages have also asked, please tell us how this Bhagavatam was delivered. Who was the speaker? Who was the listener? What kind of situation came about that Bhagavatam was spoken? So then, verse chapters 12 all the way, it sets the scene for this. So it establishes the birth of Parikshit Maharaj, how Parikshit Maharaj was born, how Yudhishthira Maharaj received the child, and how he requested the blessings of the Brahmanas. So we heard that. And then how Dhritarashtra quits home. So after Parikshit Maharaj so we heard how Parikshit Maharaj grows very nicely and very well trained, how his wonderful, great qualities, how he was Mahabhagyavan, extremely fortunate because he had wonderful association. He was directly saved by Lord himself in the womb. And, so all the good qualities of the forefathers he was having. So Parikshit Maharaj was a great personality that was clearly established. And after that, we heard how Dhritarashtra was going to leave. So this chapter began with Vidura coming, because we wanted to know how the kingdom of Hastinapur continued. Because Parikshit was born, but the king was still Yudhishthira, right? And Dhritarashtra was still staying there. So we heard how Vidura came after his visits from all the holy places, and how he spoke very strong but loving words to Dhritarashtra, requesting him to leave home and to pursue spiritual life. So that was a very instructive topic on renunciation and moving on uh, towards the end of life and not remaining attached to family and matter, right? So then chapter 14. So after hearing this, right, then Yudhishthira Maharaj was still king. Dhritarashtra had already left. He had already left the Himalayas, and he already left the body performing dhyana yoga. So we heard a little bit about dhyana yoga also, and we heard why Dhritarashtra did not get the benefit of devotional service. So that we spoke about. And then finally, the disappearance of Lord Krishna was discussed, the ill omens that was seen, how Arjuna came from Dwaraka and he was very despondent, how his face was extremely grief stricken. And we then heard about how Yudhishthira Maharaj questioned Arjuna. So, and Arjuna responded in the next chapter. So he was telling Yudhishthira Maharaj how that wonderful personality of Godhead, Krishna, who was so sweet in his relationship with each and every one of us, that until we forgot even that how he is the Supreme Lord. And in this way we have dealt with him in such a wonderful way. And this great personality who is so close to our heart, he has now left the world. So it was described in detail, Arjuna's pain, Arjuna's grief. And and as Arjuna was speaking, so although the Krishna was lost, we heard how simply by speaking about Krishna, Arjuna regained his former glory. He regained his composure, he regained his strength, he regained his posture, everything, simply by speaking about the Lord. So again, more glorifications and pastimes and and uh, and relationships with the Lord. So that was described here by Sutta Goswami. And so after that, what happened? When Krishna left the world, so Yudhishthira Maharaj immediately said, "Okay, this is the time to leave everything." So they also took the cue and they immediately renounced their kingdom and everything, and they left the world. So now, who was the king? The king was Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj was established as the king by Yudhishthira Maharaj. And then we heard what happened during that period. uh, then Kali, personality of Kali, he was very impatient already. So, it was his time. Lord Krishna already left, but he still couldn't enter fully into the world because it was checked by Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas. So then Krishna already signaled for the Pandavas to exit. So they have exited, and Kali thought, okay, this is my chance. But still, Aya cannot, because Parikshit Maharaj is there, another great personality, as good as the Pandavas, as good as the Lord himself. So he couldn't. So therefore, he started to creep in different ways. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, no, Parikshit Maharaj saw how Kali, dressed up in the form of a king, came and was attacking, was causing himsa to the bull and the cow. The bull was the personality of religion, cow was the personality of the earth, and in this way, it was this scene was telling the future of the world, what is going to happen in Kali Yuga. Dharma will be abused, and the earth will be plundered and raped. So that is what is happening in Kali Yuga. So Parikshit Maharaj, of course, being a righteous king, he checked Kali, and we heard about the punishment and reward of Kali. How Kali was punished, he was banished to only remain in 4 places, right? Wherever there's meat eating, wherever there's intoxication, wherever there is gambling and illicit sexual activity. But Kali wasn't satisfied. He was saying, look, you are the king. Where can I find where these places are happening? Nowhere in this world there is meat eating, intoxication, and all that, as long as you are there. So what can I do? Where can I stay? So then Parikshit Maharaj told, all right, you can remain where there is wealth, hoarding of gold. Because wherever there is hoarding of gold, then all these other 4 activities will take place automatically. So you can live there. So in this way, Kali was established, a foothold in the world, right? As per the will of the Lord, because it was time, right? The destiny of the world has to continue as per the Lord's wish also. So this has happened. And having gained a foothold, Kali now could he was waiting for another loophole within the society, how to penetrate society. So he found a loophole. He found a loophole with, of course, he couldn't find it himself, because the Lord had to help him. So the Lord actually put Yudhishthira Maharaj into illusion and caused Yudhishthira Maharaj to apparently disrespect a sage, Saumika Rishi. And due to this small incident, just a small disrespect, is actually he just put a dead snake on his body, because the sage didn't receive him when the king came to his ashram. So he was put into this illusion at that time. But his son, the Samika Rishi's son, the sage's son, was a very young Brahmana boy, being puffed up and surrounded by his friends, eager to show off his power and to show that, and he was also envious of the Kshatriyas, because he felt that the Kshatriyas were not giving the Brahmanas due respect and position. So he was a bit puffed up in that way. So due to pride, So that's why in the Bhagavad Gita, it's the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 16, where Krishna talks about the demonic qualities. He begins with pride. So pride with, in English also they say, uh, before the fall, pride comes before the fall, right? So pride is the loophole which Kali found. And he found this loophole in Brahmana, in the Brahmana boy. And due to this, the Brahmana cursed Parikshit Maharaj to die within 7 days by the bite of the venomous Takshaka snake. So, and after that, we heard about Parikshit Maharaj's acceptance, how he was very sadhu in his behavior in accepting this curse, and how he was willing to continue, and he did not retaliate in any way, and he took this as an opportunity to surrender everything, to completely surrender to the Lord. So the pure devotees of the Lord are always looking for opportunities to surrender to the Lord. So when he saw this is happening, death is already approaching me, right? And I know that this is happening for a reason. So the Lord has his will. So therefore, he completely gave up everything, went to the river, remained there he decided to stay by the Ganga river and to for, fast until Takshaka snake came and overtook him, until death in the form of the Lord overtakes him. So this was basically the recap that we are doing for the entire chapter. So as you know, Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 is called creation. So you may be wondering, where is the creation coming here? So creation came in the sense that uh, the Srimad Bhagavatam established the source of all creation. So that was clearly established within this canto. Who is the source of all creations? Krishna. So in the very first verse itself, Janmadiyasya yato anvayad itaratas chartesu abhignaswarat. So in that particular verse itself, the supreme absolute truth, Param Satyam Dhimahi, that was established as the Lord Krishna. And he was the source of creation. Everything comes from him. And that was further described in chapter 3, when it's the chapter where it talks about the incarnations. So when we spoke about the Purusha avatars, the different Vishnus, so there also the establishment of creation coming from the Lord is clearly described over there. So that is one aspect about creation, right? The source of all creation is established in this canto. And the purpose of creation is also described briefly. It will be explained more in Canto 2, but it was begun in Canto 1 in a very brief way, so that it is given as a place for the jivas to pursue their passions. And the need for creation was there. And we also talked about the spiritual creation of the Bhagavatam itself. So not only material creation, the spiritual creation of Srimad Bhagavatam. How did Bhagavatam come about? The history of Srimad Bhagavatam and how Bhagavatam was spoken. So that is also what Canto 1 is speaking about. So again, creation in that sense is also discussed. And a lot of these chapters were also pastimes about Lord Krishna. So, and some of these pastimes were talking about dharma. So, particularly, in terms of Dronacharya's son, Ashwatthama, being punished. So, again, dharma was invoked over there. And during Bhishma Dev, the discussions with Bhishma Dev, again, dharma was invoked over there. So, like that, and Dhritarashtra and Pandavas retiring. So, all of these places, dharma was discussed. In Kali Yuga also, when Parikshit was chastising Kali, again Dharma was discussed. So this chapter of creation also talks about the creation of Dharma, how Dharma is established through Krishna's pastimes. Dharma cannot stand alone outside of Krishna's pastimes. Whatever Krishna does, that is Dharma, and all of Dharma is part of it. So that is clearly established also. Right, so that was basically the recap of Canto 1. So, yes, it took some time, 3 years almost, 73 sessions, 72 sessions to complete. Mm. Okay, so, and then before we go to Canto 2, I'll just like to quickly recap also chapter 19, the last chapter which we covered in Canto 1 in our previous session. So this was the appearance of Sukadev Goswami coming to answer Parikshit Maharaj's questions and to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this was the moment the universe has been waiting for, where the speaking of Srimad Bhagavatam was to take place. So by the banks of the holy river, right, when Parikshit Maharaj was performing his austerities, and then at that time we heard how Parikshit Maharaj prepares for death, right? Deciding to fast in a sadhu manner, he accepted it as the will of the Lord. No bitterness, nothing, complete renunciation, and dedicated his life into finish complete fasting and doing what? Fasting and serving the holy river and the lotus feet of the Lord, right? So that was his purpose in preparing for death. And then while he was going to do this, we heard how all the great sages from all over the universe. So in Naimisharanya, there were sages of the world, but now these are sages all over the universe. So Maharishis, Deva Rishis, Brahma Rishis, and they're together with their disciples, thousands of them, all of them from all corners of the universe. They all congregated, headed by Narada, Vyasadev. So they were there. And Parikshit Maharaj received them, and then he told them what he was planning to do. And the sages were very pleased, and they blessed him, and they said, "We are also here for a reason, right? And we will stay with you, and until the end." So then Parikshit Maharaj said, "I have only some. I require a blessing from you. My blessing is, please continue to chant and to continue to glorify and sing the pastimes and the names of the Supreme Lord as I die." So that was his request. So Parikshit Maharaj was clearly establishing the example, the perfect example of how one should behave, or what kind of consciousness one should have towards the time of death, right? So then we heard how, so the blessings of the sages. And after the blessings of the sages, while waiting, Parikshit Maharaj didn't simply remain idle. He posed questions to the sages, right? So Parikshit Maharaj's inquiry, so he asked, "Please tell me, what is my duty now? I have now given up everything. I am about to die. So please tell me what is best for me to do now as I am dying." So while he was speaking this question, at that time, Sukadev Goswami walks into the assembly. So we heard about the description of Sukadev Goswami and how he walked in, right? So Maharaj Parikshit received Sukadev Goswami with full dandavat and everything, and he poses this inquiry to Sukadev Goswami. Sukadev Goswami was established there in the Vyasasan, and he was about to speak Srimad Bhagavatam. So we heard about the Lakshana of Sukadev Goswami, his qualities and everything, how the assembly was glorified, like how a moon was surrounded by stars. So Sukadev Goswami was surrounded by the sages of all the universes. So it was very beautifully described in a poetic manner, right? And in this setting, Parikshit Maharaj immediately, in a very humble way, began very sweetly to pose questions to Sukadev Goswami. So he was embodying the example of the Bhagavad Gita verse, Tad Vidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattva Darshinaha. So here was a Jnaninas Tattva Darshinaha, one who knows the truth. Here was Sukadev Goswami, and he posed questions to them. Upadekshanti te jnanam. He wanted to know about his duty. And his question was, please tell what is the best thing for everyone in this world, and especially the duty of one who is about to die. So that was the question. So we heard about the importance of Krishna's mercy. So and how the guru is glorified, how the Guru is basically the conduit for Krishna's mercy to flow through. So, and we also heard how after Parikshit Maharaj was about finished his question, then that ends Canto 1. And now Sukadev Goswami is about to speak. So in the whole of Canto 1, Sukadev Goswami hasn't spoken yet. But still it is considered Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the preamble of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam spoken by Sukadev Goswami. So it's called Creation, Canto 1. So, and this was the last verse, the third last verse. This was the question posed by Parikshit. Yat Shrotavyam Ata Japyam. Please tell me, what should one hear? Shrotavyam means hear. And what should one japyam chant? What should one chant? And what should one kartavyam means what should one do? What activity should he do? Right? For a man, so all these things is asking for a human person. What should one hear? What should one chant? What should one do? And then smartavyam, what should one remember? And bhajaniyam, what should one worship? And then he's also asking, va bruhi yat va viparyavam. Please also tell me what are those things that one should not do. So these were the questions also posed to Sukadev Goswami by Parikshit Maharaj. So all people in this world, and especially people who are about to die, right? So what should we all do? So what should we chant? What should we hear? What should we do? What should we remember? What should we worship? And what should we not do? So very important questions, right? So that concludes Canto 1. So now we have Canto 2. So Canto 2 is called the Cosmic Manifestation. So a little bit more of creation will be discussed. And Canto 1 was the subtle aspect of creation. It was talking about the origin of creation, the cause of creation, and the spiritual aspect of creation. So, and that has come about the cosmic manifestation. So due to the divine will, the material creation, cosmic manifestation takes place. So that will be described to some extent in later parts of Canto 2, we will see. So this Canto 1 and Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam are known as the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So Lord Krishna, right, the lotus feet is the most merciful. When we worship great personalities, when we worship the deity, we begin our meditation or we begin our arati, whatever also, we begin from the lotus feet. So in this way, we start from the lotus feet, the meditation, slowly we move upwards. And the lotus feet of the Lord is very, very merciful. So it is very, very essential. Without grasping hold firmly the lotus feet of the Lord, we cannot advance in our spiritual understanding. So in other words, we cannot skip over Bhagavatam, first canto and second canto, and jump to other cantos straight away, right? This is prohibited, particularly if one is serious in establishing, following the process and getting the goal of life, which is Krishna Prema. So if we want that, then we have to follow the established sequence of order, as spoken by Sukadev Goswami. So we have to follow according to that. So we will hear about that later also. So these are all the chapters. So in Canto 2, not many chapters, it's just 10 chapters. But some of these chapters have very, very long very, very long number of verses, 80 verses or more than that. So yeah, so we see here the first step in God realization. Then we talk about the Lord in the heart. So what Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2 will do, Sukadev Goswami will begin to answer the questions of Parikshit Maharaj. So the questions, he will begin by starting with the basic first, the most basic, and particularly for those who are most fallen first. Most fallen, not in the sense of most fallen, that means those who are most averse to the Lord. Because in this material creation, it is full of different types of jivas who are, in different degrees of aversion towards the Lord. That's why they have come to this material world. So there are different processes. The Lord gives different. Uh, his mercy is very diverse. He has different types of mercy to give to everybody. So he begins the description. Sukadev Goswami begins the description by the first step. The first step in God realization. This is the least of the mercy. It begins from here, and then more merciful and more merciful and more merciful methods of attaining the Lord will be discussed as he goes along. And then you can see here, chapter 4 is process of creation. But before that, you can see chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. You can quite understand that chapter 1 will be mostly about Brahman realization, and chapter 2 will be Paramatma, the Lord in the heart, and chapter 3 will be Bhagavan realization, pure devotional service. So step by step, he is going from the lower step, going to the higher step, from first step to pure devotional service. And then we will speak about creation in more detail, about how the material universe takes place, right? Uh, and then the Purusha Sukta confirmed, and more questions by Parikshit Maharaj, and how Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So this concludes the two lotus feet of the Lord. Okay, so now we come to chapter 1. So Srimad Bhagavatam chapter 1, Canto 2, it begins with an invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the first step in God realization. So this is part 1. This is session 73. So this is the first verse. Sri Shuka Uvacha. So now it is no longer Sutta Goswami who is talking. It is now Sukadev Goswami who is talking. In the assembly of all the great sages from the universe, right? Speaking to Parikshit Maharaj directly. My dear king, your question is glorious because it is loka hitam. Loka means to the entire world. Hitam. Hitam means beneficial. So your question is glorious because it's beneficial to not only to yourself, to all, to everyone who hears the answer. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing. Para. It is the topmost and the prime subject matter for hearing for all living entities, right? And it is approved by all Atmavit. So what the answer here is approved by those who are transcendental. Atmavit means those who understand the position of Brahman, the soul, those who are transcendental. So Prabhupada describes here, simply by such questioning and hearing, one can achieve the highest perfectional stage of life. So this is the essence of spiritual activity. So spiritual activity, in when we talk about association, right, and when we talk about relationship with Guru, right, so this is basically the essence of it. It comprises of questions, very nicely put, and answers which will benefit the entire world. So therefore, that's why Bhagavad Gita, tad vidhi pranipatina pariprasnina sevaya. So service and upadikshanti te jnanam. One has to pose questions. One has to clear his doubts, because doubts are the enemies of faith and is the enemy of advancement in spiritual life. So these doubts has to be removed. Not only the doubts have to be removed, the faith is very weak in the beginning, so it has to be strengthened with correct understanding, hearing from the right source again and again until the understanding is strengthened very well, that it can serve as a very stable boat for us to sit on in the ocean of material samsara, so that even if the ocean is tossing and turning, the boat will not capsize. So in this way, we have to hear, right? uh, so why is this important also? because such questions and answers, particularly with regards to the Supreme Lord, right, it will elevate that person, everybody, whoever who's hearing, whoever who's speaking, he will elevate that person to the position of loving devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. So that is why this is very, very important. So Parikshit Maharaj wanted to absorb his mind fully into this, right? And he, due to his extreme fortune, he has received a personality who is able to answer all these questions. So that's why, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, by the mercy of Krishna, we get Guru. And by the mercy of Guru, we get Krishna. So how do we get the mercy of Krishna to get Guru? So one has to be sincere. There are two things. One has to either get the costless mercy of a devotee, right? In some way, we have served a devotee and pleased a devotee. So that costless mercy, Agyatya Sukruti, that will give us the opportunity to please the Lord. So somehow that will create the mercy, right? And secondly, we must have the desire to know. We want to understand. There has to be inquiry. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, right? Four types of people approach me, Arjuna. Who are the four types of people? Artha, those who are disturbed in mind, they are in distress. And Artharthi, those who are in need of wealth, they want gain. So one is those who are distressed, the other is those who are looking for gain, material gains or any kind of gain, like Dhruva Maharaj, for example, right? And the third one is those who are distressed, those who want gain, and those who are curious. So they just want to know, curious. But Krishna says these three will not really, they come to me, but they will leave also unless they move to the fourth one. The fourth one is one who is seriously inquisitive, a jnani. So one has to come to that point where one is really want to know the solutions to the problems of life and death. So that's why Prabhupada always says, we are born as human beings. We should have these questions. Why am I born? What is my position? What is my purpose? Why am I suffering? What will be my next life? So all these questions are important questions which differentiates us from animals, right? So if we as human beings don't ask ourselves these questions, asking is one thing, but to search, to actively and sincerely search for these answers, so that's another thing. So by sincerely searching for these answers or having this desire in the heart, because Paramatma is also in the heart, he is looking for any opportunity for that person to, if he, Paramatma sees even a little bit of inclination in that person, he will make arrangements for that person to receive some kind of mercy. And the most powerful mercy of the Lord is to obtain a spiritual master, right? Spiritual master means one who is able to give instruction, siksha, not necessarily diksha also. So even siksha is there, diksha is there. Both are considered spiritual masters, right? And between siksha and diksha, actually siksha is given more prominence. If you see our entire parampara, right, from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj to Gaura Kishore Das Babarji, and so Bhakti Vinod Thakur's guru, does not continue with Vipin Bihari, who was the Diksha guru. It continues with Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who was his Siksha guru. So in the same way, we see in Srimad Bhagavatam also, it was all question and answers. Parikshit Maharaj never took Diksha initiation from Sukadev Goswami. It was all instruction, question and answers. And in the verse 432 also, Tatvidi Pranipatena Pariprasnena Sevaya, right? There's no mention about Diksha. It is instructions. But commonly, Diksha also comes with instructions. So therefore, we take Diksha and Siksha. Both are important, right? But Diksha without Siksha is not very helpful. So one has to have Siksha. And Siksha is the most prominent aspect of spiritual association. So, yeah. So simply by questioning and answering and hearing, one can achieve the highest perfectional stage of life. So then Prabhupada continues, right? Krishna Katha, like the Ganga, is so pure that wherever they are spoken, right? What happens? The place, the listener, the hearer, the inquirer, the speaker, and all concerned, all of them become purified. So that's what Ganga does, right? It purifies everyone. But Srimad Bhagavatam is much more powerful, right? It is actually the incarnation of the Lord Himself. Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different than Krishna Himself. So whoever comes in contact with Krishna in whichever way gets benefited. Even the demons who get killed by Krishna, they are benefited, right? So therefore, the place where Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken, those who are directly hearing, right? That means indirectly also. Like for example, the sages were also listening to the conversation. It was Parikshit and Sukadev Goswami's conversation, but there were sages who were also listening, and this was also conveyed to the sages of Naimisharanya forest in another conversation by Suta Goswami. So second removed, it's hearing in it's not direct hearing, it's indirect hearing. So even that becomes purified. Even those who hear in that way become purified. So the inquirer, of course, becomes purified, the speaker, and all concerned. Anyone who assists in 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 uh, in this endeavor, in this project of Srimad Bhagavatam, everybody becomes purified. So just like the swan. So Prabhupada in his purport, he talks about how Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very attractive to those who are pure at heart, right? And just like how the swan is very much attracted to the lotus, the swan doesn't live in dirty places. It lives in very clear water, and it associates with lotuses and other swans. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost literature, and you will get the best benefit, right? The best benefit will be derived by those, even though everybody here becomes purified, the best benefit is derived by those who are like the swans, right? Who keep towards devotee association, who keep to the mode of goodness and keep towards spiritual association. So they will get the best of benefit from Srimad Bhagavatam. They can relish it the best, right? So, but the rest also, everybody else also gets purified. So, step by step, until we come to the point of the swan like personality, then we can really begin to relish Srimad Bhagavatam very nicely. So, this is very different from the crow, right? So, Sukadev Goswami continues in the next verse. Those persons who are Griha Medinam, being blind to the knowledge of Atma Tattva. So, these are the like the crow like people. So Sukadev Goswami begins by giving a warning about what one should not do. Because you remember, Parikshit Maharaj asked also, tell me what one should not be doing. So now he is saying that Srimad Bhagavatam is basically what we should be hearing, that he will establish eventually. But first he begins by saying, these are the types of people where this information and this knowledge will not find any purchase. It will be, like water washing from a lotus leaf. It will not really help them very much unless they are really open to, it will purify them, but it will bring them agyata sukruti. But unless they come to the platform of not being a griha medi. So what is griha medi? So griha medi are like the crow-like people. So what are they? They're attracted to only, like the crow is only attracted to garbage. If you give the crow lotus, if you give the crow nice things, then it doesn't live in beautiful places. It lives amongst, dirty places. So that's a griha medi. His consciousness his vision, his goal in life, his approach, and everything, his likes, everything will revolve around this kind of places. So, who are they? They are blind to the knowledge of Atma Tattva. Atma Tattva means transcendental knowledge, understanding. And what will they be having? Why they are blind? Because their eyes are fully gazing at something else. What is that something else? They have sahasrasa subject matters for hearing in human society, O Rajendra, O king of all kings. He's referring to Parikshit Maharaj. These Griha Medi, they have millions, thousands. Sahasra means thousands, right? Thousands of subject matters for hearing in human society. These Griha Medis. But amongst all the thousands of subject matters, they will not you will not find Atma Tattva as one of it. That means they will talk about so many things. They will talk about politics. They will be happy to talk about sports. They will be happy to talk about, society, whatever, materialistic things, health or whatever. But they will economics. But when it comes to Atma Tattva, they become very silent. They do not know what to say or how to continue the conversation. So that is description of Graha Medi. And basically the word Graha Medi, Graha means house, and Medinam, that means Medi comes from the word jealousy. It literally means jealous, those who are envious. Griha, envious. So that means they are envious people who live in the house. So, and who are they? They are blind to Atma Tattva. So what do they do? So the lifetime of such an envious householder, a Grihamedi, is passed at night, either in sleeping or in sex indulgence, and in the daytime, either in making money. So this is basically the sum and the summum bonum of the life of a Grihamedi. They live their life simply 24 hours a day. They dedicate it only to these two matters. So it's divided into day and night. So nighttime is towards sleeping or sensual enjoyment, and daytime towards gaining the means in order to fuel their sensual enjoyment. So making money, in other words. So this is embodied very much by the great demon Hiranyakashipu. So that's why his name was Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya means gold, or in other words, money, right? And Kashipu means soft bed. So here we have that. So basically, this is Hiranyakashipu, money and bed. Or in other words, sense gratification and materialistic pursuits. So that is what the Graha Medi will do. So in order to achieve these two, right, there will be thousands of topics he will be talking about. But there is no time. So no time for Atma Tattva, no time for anything to do with Atma Tattva. But every other time is dedicated for this. So Prabhupada describes, this is like, that's why, Prabhupada, if you read Prabhupada's books, many of his books, he will always say how human beings should not behave like camels, hogs, dogs, and donkeys. So they should not behave like this. So they should, work. Human being has a higher propensity. So why they should not behave like camel, the pig, or like the donkey? So because the pig, the pig will not know the difference between what to eat and what should not be eaten. The pig is very tolerant about whatever he eats. So anything also can, whatever he eats. So in fact, and particularly he has a liking for horrible things, like abominable things, like stool. So therefore, you give nice halwa to a pig, the pig will not eat the halwa. The pig will say, "Where is the stool?" So that is what the pig will eat. So human beings should have discrimination in what they eat. not simply eat everything and everything under the sun, anything that crawls, anything that hops, anything that swims, anything that flies, anything that walks or jumps. So no, there is uh, food particularly meant for human beings and food meant for different kinds of creatures. Like blood, blood is food meant for the ghost, for example. The Pisashas, the Rakshasas, the Bhutas, the Pretas, they subsist on blood, right? So that is not what is meant for human beings. So human being also should not be like the camel. So what's the camel? The camel is a creature which likes to chew because he lives in the desert, and in the desert you can't find nice soft greeny vegetables. And what you'll find in the desert, you'll find vegetation which is very hard, very tough, and full of thorns. So it's made that way in that area because it's very hot and very dry. So to stop the transpiration process where the water is lost from the plant, it's created that way. So that would reduce the water loss, being very hard and very thorny. So the camel has nothing else to eat, but the camel is made in such a way that it likes to eat these thorny things. But you can see the mouth of the camel. It's not the mouth of the camel is made of metal or anything like that. It's flesh only. But what it does, it bites the thorny plants, and as it bites and chews the thorny plants, the thorns actually cut the tongue of the camel, the tongue and the inner part of the camel's mouth. Some parts of it will get cut, and blood will also ooze together with the dry thorny vegetable. So as it is chewing, the camel will think, oh, so tasty. But actually what it's tasting is it's tasting its own blood. That blood is like the sauce which is giving the taste in for the vegetable which is eating, for the thorny plant which is eating. So therefore human beings should not be like that. So uh, sense gratification is considered like poison according to Srimad Bhagavatam, and particularly sexual life. So because in sexual life the man loses his blood. So the blood, it's described that 16 gallons of blood makes one drop of semen, and if one discharges semen indiscriminately, he's actually losing in that sense a lot of his potency. So it's like the camel who is enjoying sense gratification at the cost of his own blood. So human beings should not be spending their life that way. So one should not be like a camel. And then one should not be like a donkey, an ass. So a donkey is something that works very hard. A donkey is usually made to work very hard. The donkey carries a lot of heavy things. But basically, what does the donkey want? What does the donkey want? The donkey wants to eat grass. But the donkey doesn't realize that there is free grass everywhere because he's not allowed to eat the grass. So, but it's free grass everywhere, but he cannot eat it. So he thinks that he has to work very hard in order to get the grass at the end of the day. So therefore, it's like the carrot which is dangled in front of the donkey, and the donkey continues to work looking after the carrot, right? And after doing so much of work, he receives that carrot at the end of the day, not realizing that there is also food available, there's grass available everywhere, right? So human beings likewise should not spend their entire life 24 hours simply looking for money for their subsistence, for their working for their subsistence, right? This is to be understood, right? Subsistence comes by the will and the grace of the Lord, right? But one should not be spending our valuable human energy fully. So we should plan our life in such a way that we should give room for also Atma Tattva, and we should also plan our life that eventually we will retire, and with that we can fully move on into spiritual pursuits. So we should have such plans, right? So that is the purport of what Sukadev Goswami saying, right? Otherwise we are like the Grihamedi. So Prabhupada says the karmis are more or less devoid of Atma Tattva knowledge. And as such, their life is spent without spiritual profit. So then Sukadev Goswami continues, right? So what do? This Grahamedis, they spend their life and they're very envious. They spend the nighttime sleeping or sex indulgence, daytime making money and also other sense gratifications, and maintaining family members. So they spend their entire energy and their life simply to maintain the family members. So I came across this. This is this man over here in China. He is the head of the world's largest family, and these are all his family members. It's all his children. He has many wives and many people, and therefore many children, legitimate and illegitimate. So all of them here, right? But in the end, he died also at 76. So Prabhupada says the human life is not meant for hard labor like the donkey, for economic development, and it is not meant for sex indulgence like the camel, right, or the pig, or like the dog. It is specially meant for making a solution to the problems of material life and the miseries thereof. So human body comes with human brain, comes with human intellect. Why is human different compared to animals? The difference is not because that we are more intelligent in making money, more refined in the way we eat, more refined or sophisticated in the way we sleep, or in the way we defend, or in the way we enjoy sense gratification. No, the key difference is basically that we are able to understand spiritual tattva. We can understand the concept of God. We can understand the concept of right and wrong, morality. A monkey doesn't understand morality. A tiger cannot understand morality. But morality is just the base. Higher than morality is the understanding. Morality comes from the Dharma, comes from Krishna. So, to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to understand why I'm here, what is my relationship with the Lord, who am I, who is the Lord, okay, forget about who is the Lord. We can even ask, who am I? That's one thing, right? And what happens to me when I die, right? And who created this creation? Who created me? Who created the world, right? So then one comes to the concept of God. And then the next question, who is God, right? What is he doing? Where is he? What is his relationship with me? What do I need to do for him, right? So then these kind of questions are there. So that is the spiritual aspect of questions. So Sukadev Goswami continues, persons devoid of Atma Tattva do not inquire into the problems of life. Why am I suffering? Why am I going through birth, disease, old age, death? Why am I having disturbances of the mind, disturbances due to the other living entities, disturbances due to, in the environment? So why am I going through all these problems? So these are the problems of life. So the Grahamedis, people who are devoid of Atma Tattva, do not inquire into the problems of life. Being too attached to the fallible soldiers like the body, children, and wife. So they are basically very much attached, and they invest all their time and all their money and resources into the body, into their children, into their family members, right? And whatever that's connected to them. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable destruction. So Sukadev Goswami is saying human beings every day, human beings, they see evidence of plans going wrong, right? Simply we have to go into the car, go into the street, and when we see how many accidents, right? At least one accident in a day, right? And even if you don't see the accident, you will at least hear the ambulance traveling. Sometimes I hear 3 or 4 times ambulances going in just one day. That's in KL, at least. So, plans are failing. Somewhere something is happening to people, right? So, although sufficiently experienced, so that's why Yudhishthira Maharaj in Mahabharata, there was a point where Yudhishthira Maharaj was given a series of questions by the Yaksha on the lake. So, there's a long story, but this Yaksha, all the other brothers of the Pandavas were almost like dying. They're going to die because this Yaksha was actually Yamaraj himself, and he wanted to test them. So he took away all of the other Pandavas because they failed to answer the questions given by Yamaraj in the form of a Yaksha. So then this Yaksha, when Yudhishthira Maharaj came, he asked he asked Yudhishthira Maharaj a series of questions to answer. Yudhishthira Maharaj was answering all the questions, and one of the questions the Yaksha asked, he asked Yudhishthira Maharaj, please tell me what is the most amazing thing in this world? What is the most amazing thing in this world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj answered, the most amazing thing in this world is that every day human beings, they see evidences that people will die. Every day there is evidence that people die. But yet he lives his life thinking that he will not die. And that is the most amazing thing. That means every day, day to day, we live our life thinking that we will not die. That, so that therefore we have plans. We have continuous plans. I will read Srimad Bhagavatam tomorrow. I will chant another day. I will take up spiritual life when I am 50 years old. So they are thinking that they will live continuously. And therefore they predominantly make materialistic plans. So, in other words, Sukadev Goswami is also saying indirectly that we do not invest sufficient time or resources for spiritual understanding or spiritual investment. We don't spend enough time to chant, we don't spend enough time to hear Srimad Bhagavatam or to hear from the pure devotees. We don't have enough time to serve the pure devotees or to serve the Lord. So these are all economically we have to do, right? Because of this Maya, because we are thinking that, okay, there's still time, there's still time, there's still time, right? So this is the amazing thing. And when it happens, that person is most amazed. Oh, I died. I didn't expect lah. So suddenly it just happened. Oh, I didn't think it will happen to me. So, like, we have this example of this Indian airline which crashed in Ahmedabad. So nobody, forget about the airlines, forget about the people in the aircraft. I can't help thinking about the people in the college where suddenly an airplane fell on the college. You could be just thinking, okay, I'm planning, okay, tomorrow I have my exam. I don't have time to chant today. And they probably kept some Bhagavad Gita with them. And then, today, okay, I need to go out today. And tomorrow I need to spend time with my friends in the university. And then after that, my exam is coming in 2 weeks' time. And then suddenly, bang, the aeroplane just drops on them and people die. So all the plans finished. So, and then they are surprised. Oh, this happened? That happened? So they don't understand that this material life is very risky. Anytime anything can happen, right? So here is the leading underlying causes of death in the United States. So you can see, and also predominantly the rest of the world. So every day people are dying with these different things. And there was once, I like to tell this story. So this incident of Prabhupada. Prabhupada went to the West, and then there was a reporter. I think there was an interview in a TV show or a radio show, I think. And then the interviewer, he wanted to put Prabhupada he wanted to give difficult questions. He's that kind of an interviewer. So he was saying, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, you have come from a third world country." Okay, this was India in the 1969, 1970, pretty much third world, right? So you have come from third world country where the rate of death is so high. We are in US, our rate of death is very low. So what do you think you can contribute for us over here, coming from such a country? So Prabhupada said, well, the last time I looked, the rate of death in all countries are the same, 100%. People die. So then that caught the interviewer off guard. Oh, that was a witty remark, witty rejoinder by Srila Prabhupada. So yes, that's the truth. The rate of death is 100%. It's not 30%, 20%. It's not like third world countries say that their rate of death is the. Maybe they die earlier. Maybe they don't live up to a full ripe age. Like some countries like Japan and other countries in the Western world, the old population is becoming the majority, right? But in the end, they still die. Just like that old man who had the biggest family in the world, right? The Chinese guy. I showed you a picture just now. At 76, he still died anyway. So Prabhupada says, no one will survive in this struggle with material nature, and that's a fact. The history of human society definitely proves it. What happened to Genghis Khan? What happened to Alexander the Great? What happened to Napoleon Bonaparte? What happened to Hitler? What happened to all the great conquerors, right? Julius Caesar, everybody. So all are 6 feet underground being eaten by worms. So that's the end of their civilization. Even what to speak of people, even great civilizations. What happened to the Roman civilization? What happened to the British Empire? So like that, everything passes. 100% casualty in the material world. So Prabhupada says, wake up. This material world exists only as a dream, right? Due to our attachment to it. So it's like a dream. Otherwise, the living soul is always different from the material nature. How to understand this? It's like just like when we go to sleep, we are dreaming sometimes, right? So when we are dreaming, we have different experiences, we even have relationships in our dreams. We have a father, we have a mother, we have our children, and sometimes it's entirely different. And or we are being chased by a tiger, or we are being attacked by something, and then we actually feel the anxiety in our dream. And then when we wake up, snap, oh, oh, thank goodness that was just a nightmare. It wasn't real, right? And then after that, we forget about it. We don't even remember. In the middle of the afternoon, we even forget entirely the dream that we had. So like this, we forget so many things. So in our life also, we take birth after birth after birth. So one birth is like a dream, and then when that birth is finished, in our next birth, we forget entirely what happened in our last birth. Just like when we wake up, the dream fades. We forget the dream. Nobody can say what they dreamt 3 days ago or 4 days ago, even one day ago also. Even the daydreaming also we sometimes forget about dreaming. Even real life we forget. We forget what we ate 3 days ago. We forget the persons we talked about. We forget what conversation we had sometimes. We forget the details of what we were doing. So yeah, so it's like a dream in that sense. And it's basically one life after another life. So it has nothing to do with the living soul. So just like when we are dreaming, do we get disturbed? Are we actually affected by the dream? Like a tiger bites us in the dream, is the bite also real in when we wake up? No, it's not, right? So therefore, we are like the living soul. We are within this body. So whatever happens to the body doesn't really affect the soul. So that is the type of understanding that we have here, right? So it's only due to lack of knowledge, lack of Atma Tattva, due to ignorance that we become victimized by Maya. So Prabhupada continues, this great ocean of material nature is tossing with the waves of time. So this is the material ocean, samsara sagara, right? And we are in this water, right? And we are being tossed by the waves of time. And the three modes of nature, they are tossing us continuously, right? And the so-called living conditions are something like foaming bubbles. So what are the foaming bubbles? Sometimes when a wave comes, there's some bubbles. These bubbles are like our relationships, the temporary relationships, the temporary duties, the temporary sense gratifications that we have. So they come and go like that wave, one life, next life, as the time goes about. So these foaming bubbles which appear before us as bodily self, wife, children, society, countrymen, etc. So Sukadev Goswami continues, Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma, therefore, O son of the kings of Bharat, therefore, O descendant of Bharata, Sarvatma, Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari, Srotavya Kirtitavyascha, Smartavyas Chechatabhyam. So this verse is a very wonderful verse. It's basically telling what? O descendant of Bharata, right? One who desires icha. Here this word is cha icha and icha. Icha means desire. So one who desires to be abhayam. Abhayam means to be fearless, right? Fearless and to be completely free from material entanglement. So one who desires to be free of this material entanglement, to be free of fear, no more fear in this existence. What must he do? So what he must do? He must shrotavya, he must hear. Shrotavya means to hear. He must kirtitavyas, that means to chant or to glorify, right? Kirti comes from the word fame, to glorify or to chant, right? And remember, smartavyas, smarta. So to hear, to chant, to remember what? Sarvatma, to remember the super soul, the Atma who is everywhere. Who is the Atma who is everywhere? That is the super soul, right? Paramatma. So Paramatma is also known as Sarvatma. That Sarva means everywhere. That Atma which is everywhere, right? Bhagavan. This Paramatma is Bhagavan, the possessor of all opulences. And he is Ishvaro, Ishvara. Ishvara means the controller. He controls everything. He controls our heartbeat. He controls our the material nature. He controls the movement of the planets, everything. And he is Hari. Hari means Hari is also known as one who vanquishes material misery, one who destroys material misery. So this is the person we should hear about, we should chant and glorify, and we should remember at all times. If we want to become fearless, and who better to give commentary on this than Abhaya Charanara Vinda, Srila Prabhupada. One Abhaya Charanara Vinda means Abhay means fearless, right? The lotus feet, one who is fearless. So we have taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada, so he's the best person to give. So let's hear what Abhay Charanaravinda Srila Prabhupada has to say. Hearing about that and glorifying the Lord are identical with the transcendental nature of the Lord. So why this happens? Why we can become fearless? Because simply by hearing, simply by chanting, simply by remembering, just like how Prahlad was fearless because he was remembering, right? And Haridas Thakur was fearless because he was always chanting, hearing and chanting. Because he was punished by the Nawab, right? To be I think the king, to be beaten in 21 marketplaces because he was a Muslim and he was chanting Hare Krishna. So and due to the Brahmanas complaining about him out of their envy, the king wanted, I think it was the king, he wanted to punish Haridas Thakur by beating him in 21 marketplaces. But Haridas Thakur was fearless because he was chanting continuously the names of the Lord. Right? So, and Parikshit Maharaj, look at him. He is fearless. Although he knows 7 days, Takshaka is going to meet a horrible death in the mouth of the fangs of the poisonous snake. Imagine dying, being bitten by a terrible snake. So, because he was hearing Shrotabya, so Parikshit who was hearing, Haridas Thakur who was chanting, and Prahlad Maharaj who was remembering, all of them became fearless because they were always either hearing, chanting, or remembering the Paramatma, who is Bhagavan, who is the controller, who is none other than Hari. So Prabhupada continues, this process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord is applicable for everyone, whoever he may be. So anybody can do this. And it will lead one to the ultimate param success in everything in which one may be engaged by providence. So Prabhupada says, don't give it, you don't have to give up everything that you're doing. You don't have to stop whatever we are doing. All you have to do is simply add Krishna into whatever you're doing, right? So just add Krishna into a little bit of your life. If you can, add Krishna in every aspect of your life. In this way, Krishna will grow, just like Prabhupada sometimes give this example of a disease. Bhakti is like a disease. Prabhupada gives that example. It's like you sometimes you don't want to go near someone who is having a certain disease which can catch, right? Like last time we had this COVID and all that. So that's why they quarantine you and all that, because it'll catch. So it's infectious. So therefore, Krishna is very infectious. Bhakti is very infectious. So if we add a little bit of bhakti into our lives, that bhakti will grow. It has a way of growing, right? So long as we don't do aparad. So yeah, but otherwise it will grow. So the process of hearing about and glorifying the Lord is applicable for everyone, whoever he may be, and it will lead one to the ultimate success in everything in which one may be engaged by providence. There are many classes of human beings. So to give us more understanding, Prabhupada talks about the different classes of human beings. We have the fruitive worker, the karma kandi, like the griha medi, right? So even if we are griha medis, right? And then there are some people who are empiric philosophers. They are not interested only in gaining sense gratification or money, or whatever. There are group of people who are very interested in researching, in finding out the truth, things like that. Empiric philosophers, like scientists, right? Like researchers, like that. These are empiric philosophers, experimentalists, inquirers. They are inquisitive. And there are mystic yogis, those who are trying to go within. They want to shut out external feature, and they want to convert their senses inside, to go within, searching for their true self. So the mystic yogi, right? Then there are also the pure devotees. So these are the four classes of human beings. There are more classes also, but Prabhupada is basically giving a major classification here. For all of them, one and the same process is applicable for achieving the desired success. Now, one process is enough for all of these people. What is that process? Bhakti. So, for even if you're a fruitive worker, even if you're empiric philosopher, even if you're a mystic yogi, if they want to achieve the ultimate success, then they need to add bhakti into whatever they're doing. Now, a fruitive worker, what is the success of a fruitive worker? He gets material gain, right? Name, fame, glory, labha. He gets gain, money or whatever, position, right? But that is temporary. Whatever he gains is going to be temporary, right? And if he probably, if he's more intelligent, he will think, let me gain the heavenly planets. So even to gain the heavenly planets, bhakti can give us heavenly planets also very easily. Instead of doing so much of fruitive work, Instead of doing so many yagyas, 108 Ashwamedha yagya, like, like Indra in his previous life, he had to do 108 Ashwamedha yagyas in order to get the position of Indra in heaven. But but what did Bali Maharaj had to do? He simply had to give up everything to Vamana Dev, and he is destined to be the next Indra in the next cycle, simply for giving up. So easy, in just 1 second, he got the position of the next Indra. Whereas, can you imagine the effort the previous Indra would have taken? The current Indra would have taken to perform 108 uh, horse sacrifices. So much of effort. So bhakti can give everything. If one is following bhakti, very easily one can attain heaven. Don't even have to question. Very easily one can attain heaven, right? And what about empiric philosophers? Empiric philosophers are those who are after the Brahman. They want to know what is the ultimate truth. They want to know the truth. They are searching. So they attain Brahman by inquisitive, by by studying the Vedas, by studying scripture, by looking for the source of spirit. So what are we? So that is Brahman. So the supreme truth can be understood in 3 stages. The primary stage is Brahman. The higher stage is Paramatma. The final stage is Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. So Brahman is just effulgence, the effulgence of light. So what is their goal? Their goal is to attain liberation. So again, simply add bhakti inside, and very easily they can attain liberation. Other than, the jnana process is so difficult. One has to, give up so many do's and don'ts they have to follow, right? They cannot be people who take up empiric philosophers. They make very bad family members. So usually it is described in scripture that they should, go and live alone in a monastery or something like that, where they are not encumbered with family relationships or family burdens. So then they can completely dedicate their life towards this. Then they can attain liberation. But it's very, very difficult. But with bhakti, even if they desire this, simply by following bhakti, very easily they can attain. Same thing, mystic yogi, they want Paramatma realization. They want to see the Paramatma within their heart. They want to see the Atma within themselves. So simply by following bhakti, very easily they can attain this. What to speak of pure devotees, they can attain the Supreme Lord Himself, like how Mother Yashoda managed to catch Krishna literally, right? So how do they include bhakti into all this? So bhakti is divided into 2 categories, right? There is Krishna tells Arjuna, don't jump like this, right? Don't come and tell me you want to go to the forest, you want to give up and do meditation, and all this is impractical, right? So I recommend you to do bhakti. You begin with buddhi yoga, right? Later he tells, Man mana bhava mad bhakto, always think of me, always remember me, always, dedicate everything you do to me, worship me. But not many of us can do this always, right? Not many of us can always remember Krishna, not always remember the Lord, not always think of Him. So it's not easy. So that is Ananya Bhakti. Man manabhava mad bhakto mad yaji mam namaskuru, right? Always doing this, that is Ananya Bhakti. So maybe we can't do that yet. So then what should we do? So Krishna tells Arjuna, start Buddhi Yoga. This is the preliminary aspect of Bhakti. Bhakti has 2 parts, the preliminary part and the advanced part. So if you cannot think of me always, even in chapter 12 Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, right? If you cannot think of me always, then what he tells Arjuna? He says, follow the regulative principles of Bhakti. What are the regulative principles of Bhakti? Follow that means chanting, hearing, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, what else? Dasyam, Vandanam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So beginning with Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, right? So hearing, chanting, remembering, serving. So in this way, we can begin that. That is the regulative principles of bhakti. And then Krishna says, well, if you cannot do that also, then at least work for me. That is Buddhi Yoga. Work for me. Do service. There is direct service to the Lord, right? But there is also working indirectly for the Lord. Like, for example, we have to work as grahastas. The difference between Griha Medi and Grihastha. Grihastha, we should not be envious and we should be incorporating Atma Tattva within our lives. Correct? So we should have some space for that. So we cannot be 24 hours chanting. So we do minimum 16 rounds chanting. We dedicate at least 1 hour a day for hearing classes or to read scripture, and maybe another half an hour to do puja or worship, right? And once a week or like that, we go to the temple and we do some more, and then once a month we have festivals, and once a year we go for yatra, like that. So examples. So that is grihastha, grihastha as opposed to griha medi. So what do we do the rest of the time? The rest of the time we are executing our material duties. So this material duty can also be bhakti. So that is where Buddhi Yoga comes. Buddhi Yoga is we perform our material duty for Krishna's pleasure. In other words, we don't expect returns. We don't do the duty expecting material returns. We do it because it is duty and because it will please Krishna for us to execute these duties. Because we need to work. We need to work in order to, feed the family, to support the family, to perform worship at home. So Krishna would not want that we disrupt the family's upbringing, right? So therefore, for the development of Krishna conscious family, ultimately we want to bring up our family in Krishna consciousness. We want to, help them. We want to serve prasadam to the family members. So in this way, therefore, ultimately, so it's in very simple ways like this. We just have to add Krishna into our lives. Whatever duty that we are doing, we just have to add that plus one, because everything else that we do is a zero, is a collection of zeros. But the moment we add the plus one inside, then the zero has a value. It becomes 10, 100, 1,000, 100,000. So that one is Krishna. So that is Buddhi Yoga. So Krishna says, begin with Buddhi Yoga and also practice Ananya Bhakti. Do both. Don't only do Buddhi Yoga and then you don't have time to hear, you don't have time to chant. But if you do both, that is very powerful. But even if you cannot do this, then at least Buddhi Yoga you do also. You will benefit. It will benefit everybody. So this is how it works. So by Ananya Bhakti, by hearing about and glorifying the Lord, all a person's activities become molded into spiritual activities. So it begins with Ananya Bhakti. When we come in contact with Ananya Bhakti, then we can begin Buddhi Yoga even. Because we have heard how to practice Bhakti Yoga from a pure devotee or from a representative of a pure devotee, right? So this cannot take place unless we meet devotees. It is only by the mercy of devotees we can get bhakti. So by hearing about glorifying the Lord, our activities become molded into spiritual activities, so that we can even extend to our other material activities. So whatever material activities that we do, we can plus Krishna into it. For example, we have to attend the birthday party of our family members. So we can go there. We can, if it's possible, we can chant Hare Krishna to them. We can give them a gift which is in some way related to Krishna consciousness. Maybe give them a book, or together with the book, we can give something else which they like. We can make prasadam and we can bring prasadam for them. So, in this way, we are performing material activities, but at the same time, we are Krishnaizing our material activities. So, that is Buddhi Yoga, right? Just like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in chapter 9, Yat karosi yat agnasi, yat johosi dadati yat, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, mat tat kurushva mat arpanam. So yat karoshi, whatever you do, yat karoshi, yat ashnasi, whatever you eat, whatever you eat, yat juhosi, whatever you offer, and yat dadasi yat, whatever you give in charity, what yat tapasyasi, whatever austerity that you perform, O Kaunteya, do it as an offering to me. So that is Buddhi Yoga, which is part of Bhakti. So it begins that way. And we can begin that because we have heard Bhagavad Gita. So it is always connected, the two. Mm. So Buddhi Yoga will lead to Ananya Bhakti, and it's a cycle. And at one point of time, it will be only Ananya Bhakti. So then we have another wonderful verse. Sukadeva Goswami says, Etavan Sankhya Yoga Vyam Swadharma Parinishtamya Janmarava Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smriti. Ante Narayana Smriti. So this is the goal, Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life, achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So this is in continuation with the previous verse, right? So I was saying, even if you are karma, even if you are fruity workers, even if you are empiric philosophers or mystic yogi, it doesn't matter. We simply have to add Krishna into that, add bhakti into that, right? Then that gives the highest perfection. Highest perfection is achieved. Highest perfection of human life is achieved, right? So here it says either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, this is empiric philosophy. Practice of mystic powers, this is Ashtanga Yoga. Or perfect discharge of occupational duty by Varnashram Karmakanda. Simply by adding bhakti, right? Highest perfection of human life is achieved, and that is, it will help us to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. So very important point. So Prabhupada gives a purport. This is possible only by the association of a pure devotee. So as I mentioned earlier, right? When we have association of pure devotee, then we can understand how to Krishnaize our material activities in Buddhi Yoga. So a pure devotee can give a finishing touch to the transcendental activities of all jnanis, yogis, or karmis. Because even if they are jnani, they are stuck in Brahman only. And Brahman, even in Brahman, eventually they will fall down again to the material activity. This is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because they are not connected to their actual position of a soul. The actual position of the soul is Krishnera Nityadas. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. So if they are not connected in the actual occupation of the soul, then an idle soul will eventually fall down. So in Brahman, they are idle. They are not suffering. They are liberated, but they are idle because they are not directly connected to the Lord. So they fall down. So therefore, unless they have bhakti, then, right? And the same thing goes for the rest, the yogis and the karmis. So simply have to add Krishna. So life should be modeled in such a manner that one is able to progressively remember the personality of Godhead at every step. So this is the thing. This is the advice given by Rupa Goswami also. So always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. This is the idea behind. So we should ensure that whatever we do, we plan our life in such a way that we are able to come to this platform. So, right, so yeah, then we have one more. O Rajan, mainly the topmost transcendentalists who are above the regulative principles and restrictions take pleasure in describing the glories of Hari. Okay, so this one I will continue in the next session. This is the opening up a new topic. So we will stop here in verse 6, right? Right. So any questions or anything you'd like to clarify? Let me check. Hmm. Right. So there's nothing in the chat. Okay. So if there are no questions, I think it's quite clear, this chapter, first verse. So Bhagavatam chapter 1, Sukadev Goswami is a bit heavy. So he comes really, because he starts off that way, because Parikshit Maharaj asked very serious questions. And you can imagine the assembly is a very serious assembly. Narada Muni is there, everybody is there. So, right, sure. So therefore, we have, if you have any further questions or anything to clarify, feel free to put it in the chat. We can answer in a later time also, no worries. So if there's nothing further, then we can stop over here. So Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time. So we will see you again in the next session. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Prabhu.
much, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Haribol. Thank you very much.